that moment when you're in your dropship and you're using the mouse to move your character's head around to look around the inside of your mech. Your mech starts to power on, and there's this instant when the controls change from your first-person character to your mech, and suddenly everything is weighty. You walk through the bay doors, and that's when you realize that nothing feels like MechWarrior. I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I made. I slept on MechWarrior 5. Didn't install it. I don't know. I haven't really played a MechWarrior game seriously since MechWarrior 1 and 2, and I don't know what happened for 3 and 4. I was like elsewhere, somewhere floating around the world. But MechWarrior 5 came out, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, cool, that looks kind of interesting. What came out after, MechWarrior Online, I avoided that because I don't want to play online games. It's not my thing. But now I kind of wish I had because it looks like it was a fun time. But anyway, MechWarrior 5 came out, Unreal Engine 4 game. So I just let it go, and then I grabbed it on sale with a whole bundle of stuff on Good Old Games on GOG. I'm only running a few mods, and I'll show you the ones I'm running. So Von Biomes is amazing. It makes the game so much more beautiful, in my opinion. So the vanilla game only has a few biomes, but if you download Von Biomes, it really does make each world feel completely unique and interesting. There are so many cool biomes. And it kind of makes sense if you're traveling around, going to different galaxies and everything with all your mechs. Now we have different worlds, So yeah, I highly recommend this. It does require a bit of horsepower. So make sure you have a decent GPU and you're running it at a reasonable resolution. But yeah, Von Biomes is great. The other thing I run to make the game tolerable is better spawns, because while you're playing MechWarrior 5, if you don't have any mods, you'll notice that as you're just wandering around, there's constant nuisances spawning in. I'm talking like these little helicopters and small tanks and stuff. They just continually spawn very close to your stuff, and they only take a few hits with a few lasers or whatever. God, they're annoying. Sometimes I just want to soak in the scenery or just take a walk. It's feels really good sometimes to just walk through one of the biomes, get to your destination, and have a battle. There's that buildup that is constantly interrupted by these little nuisance tanks and helicopters. You just got to turn and shoot, take them down. And, sometimes they're shooting you in the back, and it's like, where did that come from? So, yeah, those nuisances need to be dealt with. And if you get a mod like this, Better Spawns, it helps to bring some of that nonsense down. And it makes the flow of the game feel a lot better to me, too. The third thing that I've installed is yet another Mech Lab, and it makes the Mech Lab way too overwhelming for newbies. But I still recommend even doing this from the beginning and just learning that up here on the top there's a little thing you can click that goes back and forth between your weapons and your details. Just learn how this works. Put in the time and realize that this is two games put into one. It's a strategy game, a strategy management game, and then it is a mech combat game. And the reason MechWarrior is so special is because it does not feel like any other action game out there. This one especially really made me feel like I was piloting a big, heavy, weighty mech. From the first time the dropship landed and the bay doors opened, and my mouse, I'm moving around and stuff, and then there's a point where your head and everything's moving around, but then all of a sudden your mech comes on and you feel the movement of your mouse switch from head to mech, and it just feels so different, but it's instantly you're like, I'm driving this mech, and it feels correct. Now there's something I'm going to recommend, and I think it makes the game way better. On the left hand side, I use a throttle, and I've just got a regular Thrustmaster throttle. It's not anything fancy. It came with a joystick, so I plug all this stuff up. It doesn't work natively, but I have a file that you can just drop in your thing and it works. So it's like a config file. You have to drop it in there, then all of a sudden it'll work. But I've got it configured in a strange way. Now this is not like a regular FPS where you go forward, back, and then A and D strafe left and right. No, you have two different things. You move with your legs, and then you turn your body, your torso, separately. And if you've played MechWarrior, you're like, yeah. But if you've never played MechWarrior, this is a good place to start. I recommend keeping it like this. Don't switch over to standard FPS controls, because that's an option, but don't do it. You'll ruin the entire experience. You need to play it like this because it makes you feel like you're in a mech, and it's different. It's a completely different experience when you compare it to playing an FPS game. I don't know, that's kind of a draw in my opinion, having something different. Anyway, your legs can be going in one direction, and they can continue going that way while you turn your body, your torso, and then fire in a different direction. So that's really cool. Now, how I've got this mapped is over here on my Thrustmaster. When I press it forward, that's my throttle, and it's analog, which feels a lot better than using the keyboard. I love having the analog throttle because I can go from all the way forward to all the way back just by slamming it forward and pulling it back. Now, turning the mech, well, I've got that mapped. There's a rocker, an analog rocker on my throttle. I have that mapped to my left and right turn. And then the mouse, I use that instead of the joystick because it's so much easier to aim with a mouse than it is with a joystick. I tried using a joystick for a while. It does feel pretty good, but it is so difficult to get perfect quick aim. So the mouse is way, way better when it comes to like turning, aiming your guns and everything like that. So throttle in one hand, mouse in the other. Not conventional, but it feels amazing, trust me. So I'm not going to go through like the whole thing of what this game is. I'm just trying to encourage you to play these games because I think a lot of people might have slept on this, like I said, like I did. But once you get into the game and play it for a little bit, you got to play it until stuff starts to click, and then you realize, oh, that's how this works. I'll give you a couple more tips, and then I'm going to turn you loose and let you go get this game and play it. Just watch for sales and get the whole bundle on GOG like I did. You'll get like everything in one giant bundle, like all the expansions. So the other thing I'll tell you is you need to figure out how the weapons work and what they do. And you do that by going into your mech lab and saying, like, okay, so I can put different weapons in different categories. And these are all things you got to like mess around with. There's something called weapon groups. So you can put a laser on your shoulder and a laser on your hand and then put them in weapon group 1. Then you map weapon group 1 to your button. So I've got weapon group 1, that's left click. But when you do left click, it'll fire everything that's in weapon group 1. So you can have it firing a missile and a laser at the same time as long as they're in weapon group 1, and you have full control over this. After you realize how this works, it's not like other games where it's like, this shoots your gun, this is your alternate fire that throws a grenade. That's not how this works. You just set up all your weapon groups, and you're like, you know what, I want my right click to be long range missiles, LRMs. So just set that up for that. Right click will shoot your long range missiles. But you can have a whole bunch of different weapons groups. So you can say like, all right, I've got this and this and this, but I want, I don't know, maybe a flamethrower to overheat the other robots. I want that to be weapon group 3. So then that can be mapped to your side mouse button like I do. So once you start to figure out how all that works, then it starts to become very cool and very interesting. And you can multi-press. Like you can say like, okay, there's someone right in front of me. I just want to unload all my firepower quickly. So I'm going to shoot weapon group 1, 2, and 3 at the same time and just smash all your buttons, and you'll unload a whole bunch of stuff at the same time. Then you're going to start building up heat in your mech, which is another thing you have to like pay attention to. As you're firing in combat, you're going to start to overheat your mech. And if your mech overheats, it's actually one of the scariest feelings I've had in a video game. You'll be in the middle of a battlefield and your mech will just stop and power down. The sound of it powering down, the feeling of helplessness that goes along with that, it feels, I don't know, different. Again, this feels different. MechWarrior 5 does not feel like other games. MechWarrior never felt like other games. So if you're looking for another like action game, but you also like some strategy and planning and everything, this is a cool game. It's also open world to an extent. The open world's whatever. It's like it's cool. It's fun. You can kind of just like roam around doing the open world quests for basically ever. There's all different types of quests, and you roam around taking quests, and there's different factions, and you build up trust with one faction at the price of, lowering trust with another faction, because there's always a good guy and a bad guy in each quest, and you have to pick who you're going to side with and all that. So yeah, there's a lot to it. Once you get in there and pilot a mech for the first time and realize, whoa, this is pretty cool, I think you'll be like I am and be like, yeah, this is different and it's fun. So don't sleep on MechWarrior 5, and it's one of the best purchases I've made in the past few months, because all these new games keep coming out and MechWarrior 5 is the only one that I really want to go back and play. So yeah. Anyway, let me know if you've played this game. Let me know what you think about it, and let me know if this video has convinced you to go give it a try, because that's what I like to do with these videos, is I share something I think is amazing, and then maybe you'll go out and be like, yes, it's amazing, I'll try it, or whatever. If you hated it, well, let me know why. I'm curious. All right, I'll see you all in the comments.